that spouse that's requesting, they might not be a parent. Do they lack the ability to provide for themselves? Well, in Texas, they don't care can they provide for themselves to the level the other spouse could. That's not a thing in Texas. It is a thing in California. They care about the divorcing spouse getting to live that same lifestyle. Whereas in Texas, they're not as preoccupied with that. It's very different than child support. They want to see that the other spouse is able to go off and get a job. It might be a very small job, making $50,000 a year. That's okay. But when it is awarded, it usually happens because one of the spouses didn't go to college and the other one did. The one spouse was raising the children as a homemaker. And if they didn't have kids, I don't know what they're up to as a homemaker, but they were sitting around maintaining a house all day. Regardless, there has to be a reason that they can't support themselves and that divorcing spouse needs to be supporting them. And it does happen. And sometimes it only happens for a year. Back in the day, and when I say back in the day, I mean 30 years ago, the spousal support would be doing things that were, I think, kind of weird. Saying, okay, I'll pay you spousal support until you get remarried. And that's discouraging the other spouse from getting remarried. So I think that's probably why some of these changes are made. But in general, Texas has the philosophy that if you're able-bodied and of an average IQ, you can go and get a job. If you're disabled, they don't really care about mental disability as much as IQ, physical disabilities, things like that, they might take into consideration, but they don't usually feel that one spouse that's divorcing has to keep on supporting this other person for the rest of their life. However, child support is very important to know. That's a completely different issue. And it's also important to know that child support is not going to be as much as you think. We discussed that earlier, but I have been seeing some mistaken information on social media. People TikToking around saying like, my husband will never leave me because we have 4 kids and he'll be paying so much money. And then they're really sad to find out that it's not as much as they think. Maybe it's $6,000, but that's not enough to live on, so that girl's off doing OnlyFans now. But anyway, the point is that don't rely on it, just don't rely on it. Another piece of advice is get a prenuptial agreement. They will usually uphold prenup support. I have seen some of the most creative prenuptial agreements in my day. I mean, to the point where I think they're borderline abusive, saying the wife can't reach a certain amount of weight, a lot of weird things, that she has to produce both a male and a female child. It is interesting, but they signed it for a reason. And if someone is sitting around telling you, I don't want to sign a prenup, that is a red flag, because a prenup only really is enforced upon divorce. Yes, it sort of is there to govern how the marriage is going to run, but really it comes into effect during a divorce. And so you should always, always, always have a prenuptial agreement. Sometimes people will say, oh my gosh, it's against my values to sign a prenup. Red flag. It's like that song says. I think it was Kanye West. We want prenup. But males and females alike will be the one to request a prenup. We're in 2024 here. Oftentimes it's a female that's requesting